All right, guys, NBA best bets now. Let's break down some of the available bets for tonight's NBA playoff games. We got 4 to talk about. So let's start with the Wizards and 76ers here. Philly has a second chance to wrap up the series and are favored by 6 to do just that. Do you think Philly ends it tonight, Jules?
I'm glad we opened up spending some time on the Celtics because these games are tough to give many thoughts about, honestly. We get through all these injuries in the regular season, and it's like a breath of fresh air, like, oh, all right, finally, everyone full strength in the playoffs. We won't have to figure anything out. And now we got all these big-name guys not playing in big playoff games. Philly was up 11 in that game and blew it, and Washington came back, and it had a lot to do with the biggest mismatch on the floor in that series by a mile is just Embiid against the Wizards' bigs or lack of bigs. So I think Philly's going to struggle in this game. I think that at home they have a much better shot to close it out than, a ruckus crowd in DC kind of pushing that series. But I would not lay the points with Philly in this situation. If you made me pick a side, I would take the points with Washington. I think this is going to be a grind. With no Embiid, Washington's got to be thinking all we got to do is push this back. And now it's 3-2 and we get a home game to push this to a game 7. So I think this is going to be a very tight game.
All right, so no Embiid, Nick. What's that do for you?
Yeah, I feel the same way. It's really tough to get a grasp on this game because, we saw the Sixers struggle on offense once Embiid went out of game 4. And, it wasn't like Russell Westbrook had this fantastic game. In fact, I think he had probably his worst shooting game of the playoffs and one of his worst efficiency-wise playoff games of his career. Brad Beal wasn't that great in that game, and the Wizards were still able to win relatively comfortably. So if I'm the Sixers, that's a little bit scary to me that it didn't take a Herculean effort from the Washington Wizards to pull out game 4 without Joel Embiid. So, it's going to take a better effort from Ben Simmons, a big game probably from Tobias Harris. They're going to need, one of Danny Green or Seth Curry to really step up and hit some threes. But it's kind of a lot to ask. I mean, this team is built very heavily around Joel Embiid, and that's totally fine when Joel Embiid's healthy. Obviously, you want him to carry that team, but all of a sudden you remove a guy like that, and when you've played 60+ games, depending on that guy to be your hub really on both ends of the court, it could be tough to adjust, on a dime like that. So you have to think Russ and Beal are not going to go 12 of 42 from the field again. And granted, they might not go 20 of 24 at the line like they did in game 4, but I'm with Julian here. I think Washington puts forth a little bit of a better effort. I don't know that they win the game, but I do think they cover that spread, which last I checked is down to 6.
Ryan, you want the points here too, Washington?
No, I think Philly wins, but I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be gross. The biggest adjustment, I think, for this game is they had to adjust on the fly with Embiid getting hurt mid-game. And like they said, they just ended up blowing it. This time they're going in with a game plan knowing they don't have Embiid. So they're not going to be able to go in the post much. Tobias has to step up major. I think Ben Simmons is a huge question mark and makes me nervous because they need points without Embiid. Defense will be there from the Ben Simmons perspective, but scoring is where they need to step up. But I think going into this game with a game plan being like, okay, we don't have our best player is going to help them out. Not everybody's in scramble mode.